Hello again, my friends. I am Häan of Maya, and I greet you at the beginning of something very special indeed. In the deep cosmic journey of soul evolution, a portion of humanity now steps boldly toward an important chapter. You are learning to move beyond the confines of your third density existence, a state defined by physical senses, ego identity, and the struggle for survival, and into a higher state of being. This transformation is often described as becoming a galactic citizen, meaning a conscious participant in the wider community of intelligent life and spirit that spans the stars. To rise beyond the third density is to awaken to your true spiritual nature, and to recognize that you are more than just flesh-bound individuals isolated on Earth. It is to realize that you are eternal beings of light, connected to a universal family. The shift from a purely earthbound human to a galactically aware soul requires a profound change in consciousness. You must transcend the old mindset of separation and fear, embracing instead a higher awareness of unity, love, and divine guidance. Many spiritual traditions have foretold this leap in evolution, speaking of a coming new age or a kingdom of heaven on earth, where humanity awakens to its inner divinity. In essence, rising beyond third density is about moving from a life governed by the ego and survival instincts into a life guided by the soul's wisdom and the light of the Creator within. In the third density state of awareness, human life is often driven by the ego's imperative of survival and self-interest. In fact, many are taught that self-preservation is the first law of nature, leading to a worldview in which personal needs and safety come before all else. Earthly life at the 3D level is essentially a spiritual classroom where each soul must choose between living in service to self or service to others. The unawakened human tends toward the former by default, structuring life around narrow priorities. Commonly, one's concern is focused on self, securing one's own survival, comfort, and success above all, the ego's primary concern. Family, protecting and providing for one's immediate loved ones. Tribe, community, supporting the interests of those who share one's background, culture, or beliefs. Religion or group, being loyal to your church, ideology, or in-group values. Nation, race, taking pride in one's country or people, often placing them before humanity as a whole. This hierarchy of concern, me and mine first, has long characterized third density human behavior and reflects the service to self polarity, where the circle of care is limited. By contrast, when an individual becomes touched by the inner light, awakening to the Christ consciousness, Buddha nature, or the Tao within, your orientation radically shifts. This awakened soul, one who has their being in divine consciousness, no longer lives chiefly for personal gain, or even just for family or nation. They feel moved by a presence greater than the human ego, a divine spirit within, and thus begin to live for a higher purpose. Their circle of concern expands to include all life. The guiding principle ceases to be personal survival at any cost and becomes a spirit of unity, love, and service. Such a person increasingly trusts that the he, or it, within, an indwelling divine presence, will provide, guide, and protect. Therefore, they no longer cling to the old law of self-preservation. Instead, they follow a higher law, living by grace, knowing that by serving the whole, they too are always cared for. You, dear starseeds, are making this leap right now. The awakened individual gradually shifts from fear-based living to faith-based living. Once you recognize, not merely as an idea, but as a living experience, that there is a presence within you greater than any challenge in the world, everything changes. As your scripture affirms, greater is he that is within you than he that is in the world, and I am with you always, even unto the end of the world. Such promises cease to be abstract and become an inner assurance when one is spiritually illuminated and you start to realize the nature of Prime Creator. You begin to feel this divine presence as a real guiding force in your life. It is as if a higher power walks before you on your path, and with this realization comes a deep relief, a release of the constant anxiety and self-protective vigilance that once governed your actions. Instead of living by the law of survival and suspicion, you find you can rest in trust. The inner light, the indwelling spirit, becomes your security, your provider, your protector. You no longer feel the need to rely on armament or trickery or deceit to navigate life's difficulties. The old impulse to manipulate situations for your benefit fades because you sense that a higher intelligence is arranging things in divine order. In practical terms, this means the fear-driven scramble to protect yourself at all costs is replaced by a calm confidence that you are being looked after by something infinitely wise and loving. You realize that you are never alone. A transcendent presence is working through you and ahead of you. Knowing this, you can meet life with courage and openness instead of defensiveness. The heart relaxes its guard and the mind grows still, listening for the one divine guiding voice of guidance within. In this state of surrendered trust, life simplifies and flows more harmoniously, as if unseen hands were clearing a path for your highest good. Another key aspect of rising beyond third density now is the dissolution of divisive identities that separate people. In your unenlightened state, you tend to identify fiercely with your particular race, nationality, religion, or social group, and these identifications often breed prejudice and conflict. But to become true citizens of the cosmos, you must transcend such narrow labels and recognize the oneness of the human family. Spiritually awakened teachings emphasize that you all share one source. Beyond your earthly parentage and tribal ties, you are all children of the same divine Prime Creator. This realization makes you and us literally brothers and sisters at the soul level. When you awaken to the divine spark in yourself, you cannot help but see that same light in others, regardless of their outer differences. Old biases and bigotries begin to melt away. You start to feel genuine empathy and kinship with people of all backgrounds, because you sense the one life that animates everyone. This shift is not about forced political correctness or superficial tolerance. It is a deep spiritual understanding that I am another yourself. In the consciousness of fourth density and beyond, unity and diversity coexist in harmony. Each person is valued as a unique expression of the one, and what harms another truly harms the whole. On a practical level, this means your concepts of society and citizenship must evolve. True unity cannot be achieved merely by laws or policies. It requires an inner change in perspective. Humanity is being gently pushed and sometimes shoved toward this awareness. You see increasing calls for global cooperation, the recognition that challenges like climate change, peace, or public health ignore man-made borders. These external pressures serve as catalysts, urging you to awaken to the truth that all is one. In order to join a greater community of enlightened beings beyond your planet, you must first learn to be one people on Earth, all for one and one for all. This is a spiritual mandate, asking each of you to examine and release any lingering prejudices or feelings of separateness. In the higher vibrational reality of a galactic society, there is no place for the ego's divisive pride. There is only the humankind, and beyond that, the family of all conscious life. Realizing this oneness is both humbling and empowering. Humbling because it dissolves the ego's false sense of superiority, and empowering because it allows the love of the one Father, Mother God, to flow through you to everyone you meet. Such love and understanding are the foundation of the new world you are building. Living as a galactic conscious being also means learning to surrender your personal will to the higher will of the universe. You come to realize that life is not random or accidental at all. An intelligent divine plan underlies your existence. Each soul is born with a purpose, a unique role in the cosmic tapestry. However, as humans, you often stray from that destiny. From childhood onward, you may be pushed into certain paths by family, culture, or your own ego desires, without ever consulting the deeper wisdom within. You might find yourselves in careers or lifestyles that do not truly fulfill your spirit, wondering why you feel restless or out of place. The reason is usually that you have been living according to others' expectations or your own mental agendas, instead of attuning to what your soul came here to do. To correct this course, you must turn inward and commune with the Creator within, the higher self that knows your divine blueprint. Through prayer, meditation, and honest self-reflection, you start to sense a divine hand guiding you, nudging you toward what is right for your experience. Following this inner compass can lead to surprising changes, perhaps a new vocation, a change of lifestyle, or a move to a place you feel drawn to, as your life realigns with a more authentic pattern. Surrendering to the divine plan can be challenging for the ego, which craves control. Often there is an inner war. Part of you clings to familiar habits and personal ambitions, while another part urges you to let go and trust. This internal conflict may manifest as confusion, frustration, or a sense of unworthiness and fear of the unknown. It takes humility and faith to say, "Not my will, but thy will be done," especially when you have been taught to prize personal ambition and even view certain strong desires as virtues. Yet on the spiritual path, even good desires must be examined. Are they truly aligned with your highest calling, or are they the ego's way of trying to chart its own course? The awakened approach is to continuously ask Spirit, "What would you have me do? Where would you have me be? And what would you have me say?" And then to listen for the answer. This doesn't make you passive or aimless. It makes you responsive to a higher guidance. You learn to trust that by yielding to the universe's plan, you are in fact embracing a destiny more fulfilling than any you could invent. And indeed, as you relinquish the ego's agenda, you often discover that the divine's plan for you is grander and more meaningful than you imagined. By letting go of self-will, you make room for your true purpose to emerge. In doing so, you step further into living as a galactic citizen, one whose life is not narrowly self-directed, but cosmically directed by divine love for the benefit of the all. To ascend into higher consciousness, you must accomplish what your mystics call overcoming the world. This does not refer to dominating external circumstances or other people. It points to conquering the world of one's own lower self. It is the overcoming of the ego, the materialistic and selfish tendencies, the base fears and desires within you. This inner victory is far more demanding than any external battle. History shows that an individual can rise to great worldly power and yet remain a slave to pride, greed, or fear. By contrast, truly overcoming the world means attaining mastery over oneself. Your Master Jesus boldly declared, "I have overcome the world. even though outwardly the oppressive forces of his time still ruled. He had not overthrown the Roman Empire or abolished the inequities of society, but he had triumphed over the temptations of the material world and ego within his own consciousness. In the wilderness, Jesus faced the classic temptations that plague all humans. The temptation to use spiritual power for personal security, turning stones to bread to satisfy hunger. The temptation to seek personal glory, urging God to rescue him spectacularly to prove his specialness. And the temptation to seize worldly power, offering him all the kingdoms of the world at the cost of his soul. He renounced each one, and in doing so, he died to the mortal self that craves security, praise, and control. What remained was his divine self, the Christ consciousness, radiant and free of worldly bondage. Each of you is now called to a similar inner triumph. You must shine the light of awareness on your own subtle cravings for personal validation and dominance, your fears of loss or failure, and your tendencies to react in anger or selfishness. You confront these shadows not by hating or repressing them, but by understanding and transcending them through a higher vision of truth. Through prayerful surrender, you allow the false self to be dissolved so that the higher self can be resurrected in you. In overcoming the world within, you experience a kind of rebirth. Your identity shifts from the limited human I to the divine I am. This doesn't erase your personality or the enjoyment of life. It simply means your personality and talents are now guided by the divine center rather than by ego drives. You find that your kingdom is indeed not of the third density world any longer, and your sense of peace and fulfillment no longer depends on external conditions. You carry the kingdom of heaven within you. In that state of spiritual freedom, you can walk through the same world as before, yet nothing in the world can shake the inner peace. This is true liberation, and it is a hallmark of a soul that is ready to graduate from the 3D school and move on to higher realms of existence. Declare to yourself in the mirror today, beloved starseeds, I am ready to move to the next level of my soul's evolution through this human experience, my ascension, as per the divine blueprint creation laws. Walking the spiritual path requires not only profound inner realizations, but also practical alignment of your daily lives with those higher truths. One important lesson for the aspiring galactic citizen is integrity. Your actions must begin to reflect the spiritual principles you profess. You cannot serve two masters. If you declare that Prime Creator's provision is my sufficiency, or all that the Creator has is mine already, yet then behave as if you are desperate, lacking, or entitled to cheat and grab for ourselves, you will create inner turmoil. Spiritual truth is a double-edged sword. If used hypocritically or without sincerity, it is more likely to wound your own conscience than to help us. For example, you might affirm the abundance of the universe, but if you then resort to dishonest schemes or exploitation of others to secure your good, you will quickly feel a painful dissonance. Your words say trust, but your deeds scream fear and greed. This conflict between inner knowing and outer living can make you worse off than before until it is resolved. On the path of ascension, any such hypocrisy is illuminated for correction, not out of punishment, but as a natural effect of rising into brighter light. When you hold yourself to the light, any deviation from it becomes clearly visible and uncomfortable. Thus, you learn that you must live your truth to the best of your current ability. To live by grace, as you may have heard, means to rely on the divine presence as your source and supply in all things, rather than relying solely on personal effort or cunning. This doesn't make you idle or impractical. You still carry out your work and responsibilities, but you do so with the quiet confidence that a higher power is working through you and for you. You make decisions guided by intuition and love, not by panic or ego ambition. A simple daily practice can help anchor this way of living. Each morning, before plunging into activity, take time in meditation to remember and feel that presence within. Center yourself in the awareness that, not by my struggles in the human way, but by Source within me, shall all things be done. You might affirm, in your own words, that today you choose to live not by sheer human will alone, but by the grace of the divine self. In this receptive state, you may receive subtle guidance, perhaps a nudge to reach out to someone, an insight into a problem, or a feeling of peace that prepares you for the day. As you follow these inner promptings and uphold your integrity in action, you'll notice life unfolding with more ease and support. Needs are met in sometimes unexpected ways. Doors open that you couldn't have forced open by will. By living in alignment with what you know to be true spiritually, you create a harmonious internal environment. Over time, this inner harmony manifests as external harmony. You come to see that holding to truth and integrity is not a limitation, but a liberation. It frees you from guilt and fear, and it signals to the universe that you are ready to receive more grace. In living by grace, life becomes less of a struggle and more of a flow, guided by an invisible hand and enriched by blessings that often feel miraculously timed. As your identity shifts from the limited human to the divine self, you discover an immense capacity for love and forgiveness that was previously unimaginable. In your ego-centered state, you are often easily hurt or offended. You might hold grudges and find it difficult to let go of past wrongs. But as you awaken spiritually, this changes dramatically. You realize that the same divine essence lives in those who hurt you, even if they are unaware of it. Thus, you begin to view others, including so-called enemies, with compassionate understanding. Such teachings become practicable once you align with higher consciousness, for you tap into a wellspring of unconditional love within. This doesn't mean you become doormats or condone harmful behavior. Rather, you choose to respond from a higher vibration. You can set healthy boundaries or seek justice when appropriate, but without hatred or vengefulness in your hearts. You find that you can sincerely wish for the well-being and enlightenment of those who may have meant you harm. This ability to forgive and release is a hallmark of higher density consciousness. It frees you from the chains of bitterness and revenge that keep souls bound to lower vibrations. Instead of remaining stuck in the cycle of hurt and retaliation, you transcend it. By extending forgiveness, you yourselves are healed. Your heart stays light, and you carry an aura of peace that silently blesses everyone around you. In the end, to forgive is to recognize the truth of oneness. What you do for another, especially acts of love and mercy, you truly do for yourselves. The journey to higher density teaches a fundamental truth. You cannot overcome darkness by using more darkness. In other words, negative energy cannot be truly dispelled by more negativity, whether in the form of hatred, violence, or revenge. Human history provides ample evidence of this. Cycles of war and retribution have never led to lasting peace. As one of your wise leaders observed, darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that. This is indeed a spiritual strategy for anyone seeking to elevate their life. When confronted with hostility or injustice, the third density reaction is usually to fight back on the same level of aggression. The rising fourth density approach, however, is to introduce a higher frequency into the situation. This might mean responding with empathy where there is anger, or with understanding where there is ignorance. It might mean meeting conflict with calm, spiritually centered poise, through prayer or deep breathing, rather than with panic or rage. This principle calls for using spiritual power in place of brute force. If someone wrongs you, retaliating in kind usually only perpetuates the problem, whereas addressing it with integrity and compassion can transform the dynamic. On a larger scale, movements of non-violent resistance on your world have shown that moral courage can undermine oppression more effectively and enduringly than armies can. In your personal lives, each of you has daily opportunities to practice turning on the light instead of cursing the darkness. When you encounter negativity, be it a rude driver, a workplace clash, or your own fear and pessimism, pause and remember the light within you and the light within them. Rather than reacting immediately, invoke the higher consciousness. Affirm that the divine light is present and active even in this situation. Sometimes simply refraining from an angry comeback and silently choosing peace will diffuse the tension. Other times you may be guided to speak or act, but under the influence of love and clarity instead of hate. The more consistently you choose this higher way, the more you witness genuine miracles of harmony. Physical illnesses that seemed intractable can yield to the healing light of true prayer. Relationships long fractured can mend when met with forgiveness and understanding. Even societies can begin to heal old wounds when enough individuals commit to radiating compassion instead of judgment. Ultimately, transforming darkness with light is the way of the Master and the way of the higher cosmic realms. It prepares you, as evolving souls, to handle greater powers responsibly, because you learn to wield the only force that truly heals and unites, the force of divine love. Humanity as a whole is now undergoing a profound awakening, and the signs of this dawn of higher consciousness are appearing everywhere. Not long ago, spiritual pursuits like meditation, energy healing, and enlightenment were relegated to the fringes of society or cloistered in specific traditions. Now, they are entering the mainstream. Medical science studies the effects of prayer and mind-body techniques on healing. Major corporations teach mindfulness and compassion in the workplace. People across cultures engage in yoga, energy work, and contemplation. Even organized religions are rediscovering the importance of spiritual experience and the power of consciousness. Many faith communities now emphasize healing, direct prayer, and unity across denominations. In a very real sense, the world is recognizing that your next evolutionary step is a spiritual one. It is as if the collective soul of humanity is saying, "You cannot move forward as a species without bringing spirit into your daily lives." Across the globe, individuals are seeking a deeper truth behind the outer differences of creed and culture. Ancient wisdom is being revived and combined with modern knowledge to address the challenges of your time. This broad-based spiritual reawakening is laying the groundwork for your transition to fourth density consciousness. It is unprecedented in recorded history, a global convergence of science and spirituality, and an uprising of the heart. Some call this the beginning of the age of Aquarius. Others speak of the new Earth or the Great Shift. By whatever name, it marks the birth of a planetary awareness that will ultimately qualify you for entry into the greater galactic community. However, the promise of a new age does not automatically fulfill itself. Each of you as the ground crew has a part to play. Every person walking the spiritual path today is a pioneer of this shift. The responsibility and privilege falls on you, the awakening individuals, to embody the change you wish to see. By living your truth and demonstrating the peace, wisdom, and compassion that spiritual consciousness brings, You become living examples that light the way for others. Just as one lit candle can ignite thousands, one enlightened soul can inspire a whole community. Indeed, the efforts of small groups of light-filled people around the world have already begun to influence society at large, often quietly, but surely. There is a multiplying effect when many individuals hold the same light. A critical mass of awakened souls can elevate the entire world. This is why your individual spiritual growth is so important, beloved one. It is not merely a personal quest, it is an act of service to all of life. As each of you now rises beyond your third density limitations, you collectively bring Earth closer to the tipping point of transformation. Slowly but surely, your planet is evolving, becoming more transparent, heart-centered, and harmonious, ready to take her place among enlightened worlds. Standing at this transformation, you truly are becoming galactic citizens. This does not mean you cease to be human. Rather, it means humanity is maturing into its fuller potential as a species of divine origin. You are rising beyond the old third density paradigm of fear and separateness, and stepping into a fourth density vibration of love, understanding, and unity. With each inner victory and each act of kindness, you attune more to the frequencies of your greater cosmic family. You can now imagine benevolent beings of higher realms watching your progress with loving interest, perhaps quietly guiding and cheering you on as you learn your lessons. We Pleiadians are doing this now more than ever. One day, in the not-too-distant future, open contact and communion with us and other enlightened civilizations is going to become a reality. Even before that day, you are beginning to connect on the inner planes, through the universal language of consciousness and spirit. As you unleash the light within, you naturally start to resonate with the wider network of light that spans the universe. You will come to realize that you have never been alone at all. You have always been part of a vast, interdependent community of souls. In embracing this truth, you shed the old identity of the isolated man of Earth and don the mantle of the galactic citizen, one who carries Earth in their heart, but also carries the stars in their eyes. Dear friend, as you journey forward, embrace this destiny with both joy and humility. You are the bridge between Earth and heaven, the link between the human and the divine, the local and the cosmic. By the simple daily acts of love, integrity, and insight, you are actively fulfilling the ancient promise within you. You are becoming the very change that generations of seekers and prophets have longed to see. Take heart in knowing that the same divine presence that has guided you this far will never leave you nor forsake you. If you continue to trust it, it will go before you to prepare the way for ever higher adventures in life and consciousness. A new dawn is breaking for you and for this world. In that sacred light, stand tall as a citizen of the galaxies, peace-filled, empowered, and free. We are with you always, and until our next transmission, I am Häan of Maya.